Good evening everyone. Today we will discuss the optical coherence tomography. So this is the time for high resolution imaging. So we can see in this picture that one picture shows CT angiographic view, another angiographic view, and third one is IVUS and then OCT. So you can see that there is a resolution of CT angiography is around 600 micrometer, angiography is around 200 micrometer, and IVUS up to 100, and OCT gives you resolution of 10 micrometer level. So OCT provides more details with the 10 micrometers resolution. So you can see the pictures of a very famous picture of Mona Lisa that is more visible in a picture just below the OCT. So what is intravascular optical coherence tomography? OCT is an optical imaging modality that uses the near infrared light, that is 1250 to 1350 nanometer, for high resolution imaging of vessel anatomy, tissue microstructure and stents. So key features of OCT are it uses the light, not the sound, does not use any X-ray, image acquisition is very fast, and image acquired are sharp, detailed and easy to interpret. Image construction based on backscatter and echo time delay. So this is there are two types of OCT. One is time domain and another is frequency domain. So how the time domain CT works? So this is based on a band pass filter that you can see. So there is a broadband light source, detector and interferometer and reference arm and a sample arm, and there is imaging of a coronary artery. So second is frequency domain OCT. So now again a narrow band with light detector, interferometer that works on a Fourier transformation, and reference arm along with the sample arm, and then there is a imaging of coronary artery. So what is the difference between these two types of OCT? One is time domain OCT and another is frequency domain OCT. So time domain OCT uses the broadband light source, while the frequency domain uses the narrow band with light, and TD-OCT uses the mobile reference mirror, while stationary reference mirror used in FD-OCT. And the pullback of TD-OCT is 2 to 3 millimeter, and while the FD-OCT pullback is 38 millimeter per second. Higher contrast volume is required for the TD-OCT imaging, and a low contrast volume is required in the FD-OCT imaging. And vessel occlusion required in the TD-OCT, while the frequency domain OCT requires occlusion is not required. So the moderate imaging quality given by the TD-OCT, while the high imaging quality we can get with the use of FD-OCT. So their intravascular OCT uses the flexible fiber optic catheter used for the light delivery, and fiber rotates to create the image frames. The fiber pulls back to map vessels segment. The more frames per millimeter or high frame density, the higher the resolution. So this is the picture of the pullback generation. So there is a cross-sectional and a longitudinal pictures. You can see the longitudinal view and the cross-sectional view. So one pullback gives you 270 to 550 frames per second. So you can see in this picture that there is a pullback giving the 270 to 550 frames. So imaging displays the cross-sectional view and the longitudinal view. The cross-sectional view also known as V mode, and the longitudinal view is known as L mode. So you can see the picture of OCT, take vessel in OCT in cross-sectional and longitudinal views. So OCT catheter. So OCT uses Dragonfly Duo, Dragonfly Optes and OCT catheters, and wireless FF. There is a wireless FFR, pressure wire Aries and pressure wire X. So there is a rapid exchange monorail and of 20 millimeter O14 inch wire compatible, and the 6 French guide is compatible. 2.7 French tip is profile tip and 135 centimeter catheter length. The distal tip is radiopaque marker. Another marker is at 20 millimeter proximally, and third marker at the 50 millimeter proximally. So this is OCT catheter, and there is a rapid exchange you can do, and is compatible with the O14 wire and 6 French guide and 2.7 French tip profile, and with 135 centimeter length. A distal tip radio opaque marker. Another marker is at 20 millimeter proximity, and next is 50 millimeter proximity. So there is a OCT catheter. OCT catheter is you can see in two pictures that there is a distal tip marker and proximal marker and the lens. Drive motor and the optical controller. So there are four buttons. You can see emergency setup, stop rotation and pull back in the scanning. Enable scanning. Second push will start pull back in manual trigger mode, and toggle between the live and standby. Unload, and fourth one for the unload catheter. So optical coherence tomography system, you can see these are the machines that from the physician side and the operator side. The physician and operator monitor, you can see, and there is a DOC drive motor and optical controller, and there is a CPU, central processing unit, and engine infrared light source. So the current generation PCI optimization system, so in 2011-12 there were Illumin system commercially available in 2011, and there is 100 FPS per 54 millimeter pullback in combined FFR and OCT, wireless FFR, and OCT system. Illumin Optis system is the second generation and OCT system. And Optis integrated system is integrated in the cath lab, angio co-registration with the table side FFR OCT controller, and cath lab, you can see the cath lab integrated FFR and OCT system in the third picture that came in 2015. And 2016 there is a Optis mobile system, Optis, and integrated with the multiple cath labs and angio co-registration along with the table side FFR OCT controller, and latest system with the 3D OCT FFR ACR and MSO. So the comparison of OCT consoles, so Illumin and Illumin Optis. So there is a engine speed in Illumin was 100 frames per second, while in Illumin Optis is in long pullback and high resolution pullback is 180 frame per second. Pullback speed of Illumin was 20 millimeter per second, while in Illumin Optis it is 36 millimeter per second. Frame density 5 frames per millimeter, and in a high resolution pullback Illumin Optis system it is 10 frames per millimeter. Pullback length was in Illumin in 54, while it is 75 in long pullback Illumin Optis catheter. The pullback time is 2.6 seconds, while in it is in Optis system it is 2.1 seconds, and the contrast is required in 14 ml at 4 ml per second, while in Illumin Optis it is 10 ml at 4 ml per second. And the file size is considerably larger in the long pullback and high resolution pullback. So the Illumin systems gives you more information in the form of that it has more frames per second and more pullback speed. Frame density is more compared with the Illumin system, and pullback length is also more as compared to Illumin system. while it is taking the same time almost as the illumin system, that takes 2.7 seconds, and it is in illumin system it is around 2.1, and high resolution pullback takes a little more, 3 seconds. So, and the contrast volume is almost same. So there are two SJM and FDOCT. So SJM, Teramo, Volcano and others. FDOCT or FDI, high definition OCT, and Fourier domain OCT. So performance wise, comparison between the FDOCT versus IVUS. So how it is different from the IVUS? Because IVUS uses the sound waves, and OCT uses the infrared light. So axial resolution in the case of OCT is 12 to 15 micrometer as compared to 100 to 200 micrometer in the IVUS. Beam width is 20 to 40 micrometer in OCT, and this is 200 to 300 in IVUS. Frame rate 180 frames per second compared to 30 frames per second. Pullback speed is 36 millimeter as compared to 0.5 to 1 millimeter per second in IVUS. Maximum scan area, diameter is 10 millimeter as compared to 15 millimeter in IVUS. Tissue penetration obviously is less in OCT, and more in 10 times, almost 10 times, 5 to 10 times more in IVUS. And lines per frame is 500 compared with 256 lines per frame. Lateral sampling is merely 19 micrometer in OCT compared with 225 micrometer in IVUS. Blood clearing is required in OCT. Well, there is no blood clearing is not required in IVUS. Angiocore registration is 75 millimeter in 2.1 second in OCT, and 75 millimeter in 75 seconds in IVUS. So the clinical application of OCT is a pre-PCI assessment of lesion, and PCI guidance, and a stent follow-up means post-PCI. So how it is helpful in pre-PCI cases for the lesion assessment is measurement of reference segment. So what is where are the normal segment, and MLA, MLD measurement and identification, and tissue differentiation, lumen morphology, and potential culprit lesions. And during the PCI, the lesion coverage and the deployment mapping, under expansion, apposition, lumen optimization, identification of suboptimal stent results. So this is we can take guidance with OCT, and after post stenting, restenosis assessment, tissue coverage assessment, visualization of apposition, and remodeling of biobservable stent, and lesion progression. So coming to the OCT image interpretation. OCT image interpretation based on two things. One is backscatter, another is attenuation. So what is backscatter? It is the reflection of light waves of the tissue and back to the dragonfly catheter. Then there are two types of backscatter. High backscatter means brighter pixel. Low backscatter means darker pixel. High backscatter is also described as a signal rich region. Low backscatter described as a signal poor regions. Coming to attenuation, reduction in the intensity of light waves as they passes through the tissue due to absorption or scattering. Then there are two types of attenuation. High attenuation means light cannot penetrate very deep. Low attenuation means light can pass through to allow visualization of deeper tissues. OCT image interpretation terminology. So composition may be homogeneous, may be heterogeneous. Homogeneous means uniform in structure, uniform or similar pixel. Heterogeneous means the structure consists of dissimilar element, non-uniform, dissimilar pixel. Texture may be coarse, may be fine. So how we do quantitative analysis with help of OCT. So pre-PCI and the post-PCI, there are two situations. One is during pre-PCI, vessel external and elastic membrane area bounded by the media adventitia interference. And second thing is lumen CSA, cross sectional area circumscribed by the lumen border. Minimum lumen area is smallest cross sectional area in the lesion segment. Maximum and the minimum external elastic membrane diameter. The longest and the shortest EEM diameter distance measured through the center of the lumen. Maximum and the minimum lumen diameter. The longest and the shortest lumen distance measured through the center of the lumen. Proximal and the distal reference. The sites with the largest lumen areas on either side of the lesion with 10 millimeter and the same in the same segment. So how we calculate the plaque burden? First we take the plaque plus media is equal to external elastic membrane area minus the lumen area. Then we can calculate the plaque burden, external elastic membrane CSA minus lumen CSA divided by EM cross sectional area multiplied by the 100. So we can calculate the plaque burden. And lumen area stenosis, the reference lumen CSA minimum lumen CSA minus minimum lumen CSA divided by the reference lumen CSA into 100. And finally we assess the remodeling changes in the vessel size at the site of the lesion. Positive remodeling means lesion external elastic membrane divided by lesion elastic membrane divided by the average reference EM. If it is more than 1.05, then it is a positive remodeling. Negative remodeling means lesion EM divided by the average reference EM. If it is less than 0.95, then it is a negative remodeling. In a post-PCI scenario, the OCT we can assess the stent cross-sectional area circumscribed by the stent borders. Proximal and the distal reference, the site with the largest lumen area on either side of the stent within 5 millimeter of edges. Maximum and the minimum stent diameter, the longest and the shortest diameter measured through the center of the stent. Minimum stent cross-sectional area, smallest stent cross-sectional area. Stent expansion, minimum stent cross-sectional area in the correlation with the reference lumen CSA, proximal, distal or average. Stent symmetry, maximum stent SD minus minimum SD divided by maximum SD. Neointimal area, stent CSA minus lumen CSA. In stent lumen area stenosis, say the reference lumen CSA minus the minimum lumen intensity CSA, reference lumen CSA into 100. Maximum and the minimum neointimal thickness we can assess with the OCT. And percentage neointimal area, cross-sectional area divided by the stent cross-sectional area. So coming to the OCT image interpretation terminologies, edges and borders. The creation of border is due to interference between different tissue types. One of the parameter used to differentiate plaque types. So there is on left side of picture shows calcium, and right side a picture shows lipid rich plaque. So image orientation, normal coronary artery has 3 layers. One is intima, media and adventitia. So there is a uniform slot, 3 layer visible in the vessel wall with the OCT. This is a fibrous cap that shows the high backscatter and low attenuation. So this is homogeneous, high backscatter. It is looking bright, and so high backscatter is a signal rich picture, brighter pixel, finely textured, and low attenuation. Deeper tissue can be visualized. So this is of classical of fibrous plaque. Fibrous rich plaque in IBUS in OCT. So we can see the fibrous rich plaque is homogeneous in the OCT picture. There is an external elastic membrane is visible because of the low attenuation, and there is a brightness inside the EM that is characteristic of fibrous rich plaque. Calcified plaque, you can see that there is a sharp edges, heterogeneous, low backscatter. That is a poor signal. That is why it is looking black as compared to the. It looks black as compared to fibrous plaque. So this is a signal poor. Low attenuation. So deeper tissue can be visualized. So there is a low attenuation and low backscatter of characteristic of calcium and calcium plaque. So in the right side of picture you can see that at 2 o'clock position there is a fibrous plaque, and at 7 or 8 o'clock position there is a calcium rich plaque. So fibrous plaque there is a bright structure that is a high backscatter and low attenuation. That's why the backside structure is also visible. And in the calcium there is a both low attenuation and low backscatter. Lipid plaque, you can see it is a high attenuation and low tissue penetration. This is classical of lipid rich plaque. Diffusely shadow edges, you cannot see clear margins. High backscatter on surface, low backscatter deeper. So thin cape fibroatheroma, large necrotic core with thin fibrous cap less than 65 micrometer, large number of inflammatory cells you can see. This is plaque rupture at 3 o'clock position. And with OCT we can also see the plaque erosions also. This is calcified nodule. Stent state apposition. You can see there is a on left side of picture shows a stent malapposition, and the right side of picture shows undersized stenting. So there is a gap between the intima and the stent in the undersized stent, and there is a few stents are not well apposed in the left side of picture. So that suggestive is stent malapposition. In stent restenosis, thick layer between the stent and the lumen. So this is suggestive of in stent restenosis. So this is another picture of in stent restenosis, ISR. PCI follow-up thrombosis. So within the lumen you can see there is a bright high backscattering. So this is suggestive of thrombus. And you can see the stent studs. So how do we differentiate between the thrombus, red thrombus and the white thrombus? So red thrombus are absorbed near infrared light, high backscattering on surface due to the signal attenuation, appears as a bright mass. It shadows the light, so this you cannot see behind it. This is classical of red thrombus. white thrombus is a high backscatter but low attenuation. You can see behind it. Age dissection can be assessed with the OCT. A disruption of the vessel lumen surface in the age region. Easy to interpret using cross-sectional and longitudinal views. Intimal tear, clear visualization of even small irregularities. Intimal tear. Artifacts. So what are the artifacts we see during the OCT? There is a NUD, non-uniform obliquity artifacts, multiple reflections and reverberation artifact. So we can optimize our PCI with OCT. OCT has a clear advantage for stent optimization. PCI optimization, it is all about the lumen. Fast, easy to use, easy to read, 10 times superior image resolution than IBUS. So what's new? Optis stent optimization software broadens the clinical utility of OCT to guide daily decision making for complex PCI, both pre and post stenting. Automated measurement, a position indicator, 3D bifurcation mode, and expanded 3D navigation. Need default with the lumen profile. So there is also angio core registration, automated measurement, close out X, added for both lumen profile and L mode, longitudinal mode. Stent display for apposition indicator. Display the stent apposition information in 4 locations: apposition indicator bar, longitudinal mode, stent road map and cross-sectional views. Apposition threshold optimal adjustment. Measurement is taken from the leading edge of the stent or what closest to the lenses of the OCT catheter. Software identifies the stent that are more than 25 mm apposed across the 1 mm length. Default setting shows if it is more than 300 microns, then it creates a red dot or red bar. If it is more than 200 microns, it shows yellow. If it is less than 200 microns, it shows silver bullets or a silver bar. Could also take red down to 200 if user would rather see only two colors. 3D bifurcation mode. Side branches are displayed as pink dots on the lumen profile and the dotted lines trailing into the L mode. 3D bifurcation mode will open with the view that matches the closest the side branch view or where the OCT frames markers are currently positioned. Bifurcation mode is hidden if no side branches are detected that approximately 1.5 mm diameter or greater. The software defaults zooms level. The bifurcation mode is optimized for the OCT system, not the demo laptop. You may want to zoom out when you first open the bifurcation mode. If you don't have the TSC, you can hold down the right mouse button and use the zoom bar at the far left 3D screen to adjust the zoom. So 3D navigation with the 3D options menu. So you can see longitudinal cross-sectional view and 3D views inside the vessel. You can see the stent apposition. So 3D objective display options, tissue plus lumen mode. There are lumen mode and stent only mode, and a fly through. Any of the above modes can be viewed in a fly through mode. Additional options: individual turn up to 2 guide wires, turn side branches. Note the guide wire rendering may vary due to shadow artifact. So this is all about the OCT. Thank you.